What's up, Tweeners? Welcome back to another Tweener tennis video today here on the channel, and today we have a film review. The very highly anticipated King Richard film is out now on HBO Max and in theaters, and I wanted to bring you guys a first-hand review after watching it and tell you guys what it's about, what's the purpose of it, and just my overall opinions on the movie as well. So let's just get straight into it. But before we get into this video, make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on. Our goal is to get to 2,500 subscribers by the end of the year, and we are so close. So make sure you hit that sub button with notifications turned on. I'm going to break this video down by breaking it up into 3 different sets. Set 1, the history behind the movie. We all know who, at this point, Venus and Serena Williams are. 2 of the greatest tennis players of all time. Serena and Venus opened so many doors for so many cultures and for so many women in the tennis world. And having this movie not only show what their father sacrificed to make them who they are today, but also a little bit about Venus Williams and how she was the first one. If Venus didn't have what she had, Serena wouldn't be who she was today. So without Venus, there wouldn't be a Serena. I thought that was a very interesting point that Serena made in an interview for ET when talking about this movie, because while it is called King Richard, the whole story and premise revolves around Venus Williams and the start of her career. Her going 63-0 in juniors, her not taking deals with agents earlier on in their junior years to kind of become that next greatest thing. To be honest, I really didn't know how tough their life was. We all know they came from Compton. We all know they came from a very difficult background. To the extent of their father coming home every day beaten up from protecting their daughters from gangs, protecting them from violence, making sure they were staying off the streets. It really does open your eyes to what their father sacrificed and what their father had when it came to just perseverance and tenacity and the willingness to dream for his own daughters. This isn't just any other biopic like we saw in Battle of the Sexes, in 7 Days in Hell, Borg versus McEnroe, The Untold Story of Marty Fish, which was more of a documentary series about Marty Fish's life on Netflix. Highly recommend you guys go watch that. This is more on the side of recreating the story of Venus and Serena through their father and through his ideologies, through his wife, through their family. And it really does show you what it took to be the greatest of all time. I will say, for a 2.5-hour movie, they really put all the detail into making sure that, one, they got the quotes from Richard Williams that he was famous for. The world has no respect for Richie Williams, but they will respect y'all, meaning his family. I love that quote. What other quote did he have? He had media training that he would always talk about for his girls. The famous line from the trailer, Venus and Serena are going to shake up this world. Oh, and the best one for me, early on, before we even hit the hour mark in this video, I'm in the champion raising business. And to be honest, really wise. And I'm just going to say that and I wrote this down specifically, there's a method to his madness, and I'll explain. Set 2, the coach, Richie Williams. For a guy that learned tennis from audiobooks, audio tapes, magazines, TV watching, the guy did have a way of teaching Venus and Serena, even if it was in the rain, even if it was using old rackets to make sure that they were using their arm to throw it over the net, which I thought was actually a really cool thing to teach, and I actually might start using that if we have like space on our court. A lot of his methods were a bit unorthodox, or how hard he trained his girls, but he wanted to train his girls to make sure that they had a life for themselves and to make sure that they had a life outside of tennis as well, making sure that they had all A's, making sure that they were doing well in school, making sure that they could enjoy life by hanging out with their friends, being kids, being themselves. And that's what he wanted. And for all the people that turned him down, the guy that accepted at the time, just Venus Williams, who was the coach of John McEnroe, who was the coach of Pete Sampras, Paul Cohen, who, to be honest, the actor did a really good job of making him look like an asshole. Always made sure that, one, the open stance was a very big thing that he always wanted to kind of implement into the girls' training regimen, and making sure that he was still involved in their training. Making sure that he was still there. It wasn't just Paul teaching Venus at the time. He was making sure that every person was getting their attention. While that seems like an overbearing parent, he raised 2 champions. And at the time, I totally understand. When you have a father or a parent, from my perspective, when you have parents that are too involved with their kids or try to just get involved when I'm doing my job and when I have a background in tennis and they don't, I could see why Paul Cohen was getting upset about it. And even when Venus started playing juniors and she went 63-0, and they started having a path or this structure that all these players had. So it was juniors, Orange Bowl, Easter Bowl, then going to pros. He didn't want his kids to burn out, so he didn't even let them play for so many years after competing and moving. And that includes when they went to the Rick Macci Academy, which, by the way, if Rick is watching this, by some sheer of luck, I would love to talk to you about this film, and I would love to talk to you about your teaching methods, because this guy is so high energy, so enthusiastic, and was willingly trying to make sure that he was going to do the right thing for not Richie Williams, but for Venus and Serena. I think one of the biggest things that the Williams dad made sure of was that they had a life. And like I said before, you try to make sure that his coaching method wasn't just about tennis, it was about life in general. Even when it came to bragging or how you looked off the court, how you made sure that you kept your head held high. He even made, and I don't know if this is true, but he made all the girls watch Cinderella. And for a family movie, that seems like a really fun time. But then he would shut it off and then say, what did we learn? It's a Disney movie. Who would do that? But he always tried to keep them sharp and make sure that no one was bragging and making sure that everyone was humble. And going back to that kids idea, there was one point in the movie, because Jennifer Capriati, probably the star at the time that Rick Macci was training, and it was like the blueprint of how she became #1 in the world, and everyone wanted to follow this sort of structure of going to juniors, then pros, then becoming #1 in the world. Richie Williams made sure that they weren't going to go down the path that Rick Macci, quote-unquote, led Jennifer to. Made sure that she wasn't burned out in a hotel where they found 2 people with drugs on them. And one pivotal moment that made kind of Rick Macci look at this in whole perspective, say, why didn't they show up to practice? He took them to Disney World. Richard Williams took them to Disney World to be kids, but they had a practice schedule. And it was more about the fear that she couldn't avoid being in the streets, and he didn't want his kids to end up like her. And that's that overprotectiveness of him being a father, as well as him making sure that during an interview, Venus wasn't going to be answering the same question over and over again, and him interrupting it. That was, and I can't believe how well they memorized that entire script and scene, because that was almost, watching the real thing and then watching the movie, it was like almost the exact same thing. So well done to them for recreating that.
You think you can beat it?
I know I can beat it.
You know it. Very confident.
I'm very confident.
You say it so easily. Why?
Because I believe it.
Let me tell you what she said. She said it with so much confidence the first time. But if you keep going on and on,
Listen, we can't keep interrupting. I mean, if you want...
you got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old child. And this child gonna be out there playing with your whole ass and me gonna be in the grave. When she says something, we done told you what's happening. You dealing with a little black kid, and let her be a kid. She'll answer it with a lot of confidence. Leave that alone.
It was weird because at the time when Rick Macy brought them to Florida and gave them the mobile home to travel across the country and gave them a house and helped them kind of achieve that dream because they get the whole family, not just the Williams sisters. It was funny because when Richard Williams made Rick sign a contract saying this is the Williams agreement, saying that this is what they need besides Venus and Serena, which, in all fairness, they wanted to get out of where they were living to come to a better place, to make a whole new lives for themselves. But it kind of threw me off when he said, when Richard Williams looked at Rick and said, "You work for us." And at some certain point, I thought to myself, wow, that's, for a guy that's willing to sacrifice his career, his academy, for Venus and Serena, because at the time, they're still teenagers. And we all know what they came out to be, like two of the greatest tennis players of all time, and Serena being the greatest tennis player of all time. You're taking a chance on two teenagers, and a parent is going to tell you, you work for us, after you gave him the opportunity to come to Florida. It really rubbed me the wrong way. Because I feel like that's something a country club parent would say, or someone that's entitled. But there was a lot behind the scenes that Richard Williams was doing when the girls weren't even on the court playing tournaments. They weren't even playing competitively, but Richard Williams was doing so much off the court by talking to news, making sure that he was involved in everything. But I felt like he just didn't give Rick the chance at times, but it worked out, to be honest. It really did work out. And for the third set, the overall film in general, I think they really portrayed Venus and Serena really well. And I think they really portrayed King Richard. Will Smith as an actor, from I Am Legend, Bad Boys, Fresh Prince, Gemini Man, he has so much in his repertoire. He actually did a really good job of portraying Mr. Williams, and it really showed how dedicated he was to the role. And I loved seeing this kind of perspective from behind the scenes, seeing Venus, seeing Serena look on in jealousy that Venus was competing but Serena wasn't, and Will Smith leaning over this actress playing Serena and saying that she's going to be the greatest of all time. She's not going to be the next best. She's going to be the greatest of all time. I thought that was really cool. So as a film, they really pulled your heart and pulled your emotions out of you with everything going on, from the match play when Venus played the number one player in the world, from him talking to agents about how much money that they were about to make, and him refusing a $3 million deal before Venus even stepped on court. I thought that this was an amazing film, and I thought this was really well done, and kind of an atonement to the Williams family, not just to the dad, but to the whole family in general, because I thought the mom had a lot to do with it as well. Just staying level-headed and making sure that everything was kind of working together and it was a collective unit. It's amazing, and I absolutely loved it. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below of the movie. Let me know what you guys think of what biopic or film should Hollywood create next. What story do you want to hear? Because for me, it's, if they make a movie about Roger or Rafa, that's going to be really cool. I think there's going to be a lot to look at in terms of tennis, because the amount of stars that showed up for this King Richard movie really does show that people do care about the greatest tennis players of all time, some of the greatest athletes of all time, and I think we should definitely have more of these. So let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of the movie, what you want me to review next in terms of a tennis film, and make sure to leave a big like on this video, as well as making sure you subscribe to Tweener Head Tennis, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks.